This is TWiT.
Let us move on to our next question, which comes from Dan. And this is another question I thought was a great one. So Dan says, I was wondering if you had any recommendations about strengthening my email security posture. First of all, love the use there. I use Gmail for my personal email. I occasionally receive emails from Google telling me, quote, help strengthen the security of your Google account, unquote, by adding a recovery email for this email account. The problem is, I don't have another email account. I'm growing increasingly reliant on this email address as it's the registered email for all of my online accounts, including very important things like banking, medical, etc. Should I create another email account like a second Gmail or a Yahoo, etc., or something else as recovery? More broadly, and on a related note, is there an email service I should be using that is less risky for losing access to my account? I saw this, and I'll mention what this is in a moment, and would hate to lose my email access for something like this and be a bit digitally frozen. Dan linked to the New York Times piece about the individual who had in their own personal, I think it was their Google Photos. If it wasn't their Google Photos, it was elsewhere. But essentially, they had posted photos and that were not actually child sexual abuse material, but Google's automatic scans thought they were child sexual abuse material, and therefore resulted in that account being frozen. And it was almost impossible to get in touch with Google to say, no, you've got this wrong. We need to, address this. I need to gain access to these accounts because I use them for work. I use them for business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Dan, understandably, a little worried about being digitally frozen out. And I think that this is a great question. So here's the thing. I think that what Leo has said in the past is absolutely true. That if you care about email and if you are worried about your email and if you want email that is just there to serve you as email, then you should be paying for your email. I understand that some folks can't do that. It's not in the budget. But I want to give you the best suggestion that I have before I make another suggestion to you. And that would be getting a FastMail account. Now, FastMail has been a sponsor on the network in the past, so I just want to let you know that. But I was using FastMail before they had become a sponsor on the network. They are a great email provider. And so having that as your backup, or you may find that after you get it, you decide to make it your primary with Gmail as your backup, is a really good idea. Yes, Dan, I think regardless of what choice you make, you should have a backup recovery email, 100%. In the same way that we've got backups of our files and backups of our password options, you should be making sure that you've got a way to access your email if you ever lose access to your email. So regardless of what you choose, get something else. Now, with FastMail, you are going to have access to a whole lot of different features and functionality that I won't go into. But there's another suggestion that I would make to you. Well, actually, two more suggestions. The first suggestion is no, do not use Yahoo. Under no circumstances do I think it is a good idea for you to use Yahoo. Don't do it. If you have any Apple devices, then I would suggest creating an Apple account. You can create one for free. Even if you don't have an Apple device. The reason why I say if you have an Apple device is because then it's kind of an easy integration. You probably already have an Apple account, but just haven't set up the email yet. So that's a great backup option. In that case, I would use it as just a backup because it's not noticeably better than what Google provides in terms of mail, unlike with FastMail where it is. So just use that as the backup option, but have it there if you need it and to set up that recovery email. or create a Microsoft account and have a Microsoft email. I'm not sure what they're doing at this point, if it's @Live. I know it used to be Hotmail, but I know it's not Hotmail anymore. But yeah, that's another option for you, is to just create a free Microsoft account. That's particularly if you're not, an iOS user, an Android user. Excuse me, if you're not an iOS user. If you do use Android, then yes, Gmail would have been your first choice. So you do need to have that backup. It's worth investing in email. Even if it's not as great an option, but even if you just want to have webmail as part of your domain, that's where I would recommend Hover, who has also been a sponsor on the network. But Hover has good webmail as an option for you. And this would be a great backup. So you could get, Dan, whatever your last name, .com, or dan.email might be available. Probably not, but maybe. And then just use that as your backup email address for recovery. I'm not going to shame you for using Gmail or make you feel like it's not a great idea to have it as your primary. Lots of people do that, and lots of people do just fine with that. We only hear about the nightmare situations where things like that happen. But you're taking the right choice. You're taking the right steps. You're making the right choice, Dan, by deciding to figure out what you need to do in terms of recovery. So yeah, set up a recovery email wherever you choose. FastMail is great. You may find that you end up replacing it. An Apple account, a Microsoft account, if you're looking for something free and just want to have it as a backup. So that is my suggestion to you. And yes, as Wizardling has pointed out, FastMail can and does import and access your Gmail account, so you can keep using that while you're using FastMail. That can get a little complex for people, so I know that that's something to bear in mind. However, it is one option for you. Yeah, they do. I will say they have very good import tools for sure.